Hello, today we are here with the Anatomy of the Heart Part 5 lessons, which consist of chambers of the heart. Let's see. If this content is useful for you, then please like, share and subscribe my YouTube channel and follow my Facebook page, that is NG's Corner for Nurses. And you are most welcome to comment. Let's start chambers of the heart. The heart has four chambers. The two superior chambers are the atria and two inferior chambers are the ventricle. On the anterior surface of each atrium is a wrinkled pouch-like structure which is called auricle. Each auricle slightly increases the capacity of an atrium so that it can hold a greater volume of blood. On the surface of the heart are a series of grooves which are called sulci that contain coronary blood vessels and a variable amount of fat. Each sulcus marks the external boundary between two chambers of the heart. The deep coronary sulcus encircles most of the heart and marks the boundary between the superior atria and inferior ventricles. In the picture, we can see the coronary sulcus is denoted by a red color. The anterior interventricular sulcus is a shallow groove on the anterior surface of the heart and marks the boundary between the right and left ventricle. This sulcus continues around to the posterior surface of the heart as the posterior interventricular sulcus, which marks the boundary between the ventricles on the posterior aspect of the heart. This is a picture of interventricular sulcus both in the anterior and posterior view. Let's start with right atrium. The posterior wall of the right atrium is smooth and the anterior wall is rough due to presence of muscular ridges which is called pectinate muscles, which also extend into the auricle. Between the right atrium and left atrium is a thin partition which is called interatrial septum. A prominent feature of this septum is an oval depression which is called the fossa ovalis, the remnant of the foramen oval, an opening in the interatrial septum of the fetal heart that normally closes soon after birth. In this picture, we can see the picture A denoting the foramen oval in embryonic heart and picture B denoting the fossa ovalis in an adult heart. Between the right atrium and right ventricle, there is a valve that is called tricuspid or right atrioventricular valve. It consists of three leaflets or cusps. That's why it is known as tricuspid valve. The valve of the heart are composed of dense connective tissue covered by endocardium. The right atrium receives blood from the three veins, superior vena cava, inferior vena cava and coronary sinus. Next, coming to the right ventricle. The right ventricle forms most of the anterior surface of the heart. The inside of the right ventricle contains a series of ridges formed by raised bundles of cardiac muscle fibers, which is called trabeculae corneae. In this picture, the trabeculae corneae is pointed by the black arrow. The cusps of the tricuspid valve are connected to tendon-like cords, the chordae tendineae, which in turn are connected to cone-shaped trabeculae corneae, which is called papillary muscles. The right ventricle is separated from the left ventricle by a partition called the interventricular septum. Blood passes from the right ventricle through the pulmonary valve into a large artery called pulmonary trunk, which divides into right and left pulmonary arteries. Next, coming to left atrium. The left atrium forms most of the base of the heart. It receives blood from the lungs through four pulmonary veins. Inside of left atrium has a smooth posterior wall because pectinate muscle are confined to the auricle of left atrium. The anterior wall of the left atrium also is smooth. Blood passes from the left atrium to left ventricle through the bicuspid valve or mitral valve, which has two cusps. It is also called left atrioventricular valve. Next, coming to the fourth chamber, that is left ventricle. The left ventricle forms the apex of the heart. Like the right ventricle, the left ventricle contains trabeculae carni and has chordae tendineae that anchor the cusps of the bicuspid valve to papillary muscles. Blood passes from the left ventricle through the aortic valve into the ascending aorta. During fetal life, a temporary blood vessel called the ductus arteriosus shunts blood from the pulmonary trunk into the aorta. Hence, only a small amount of blood enters the non-functioning fetal lungs. The ductus arteriosus normally closes shortly after birth, leaving a remnant known as the ligamentum arteriosum, which connects the arch of aorta and pulmonary trunk. Picture A is denoting normal heart, where we can see the ligamentum arteriosum, which connects the arch of aorta and pulmonary trunk. And in picture B, there is a heart with patent ductus arteriosus. So this is about the chambers of the heart. I hope it will useful for you. Thank you for listening.